To be an American teenage girl, seemingly, is to adore men that have no idea that you exist. Remember Bieber Fever, The Directioners? There's nothing like that good old teenage parasocialism. Now, fast forward 10 years and young women have found a new heartthrob to salivate over. But he doesn't sing and he doesn't dance. He's 6 foot, he's studious, he's athletic, he's the alleged murderer of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, Luigi Mangione. So if you're not familiar with the case by now, I'll try and catch you up a bit. At about 6:45 in the morning on December 4th, outside of the New York Hilton Midtown Hotel, Brian Thompson was shot multiple times in the back and the leg by a hooded assailant. When officers arrived 3 minutes later, the perpetrator was seen riding an e-bike north into Central Park. Thompson was declared dead at Mount Sinai Hospital less than 30 minutes later at 7:12 a.m. 5 days later, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, police arrested 26-year-old Luigi Mangione at a McDonald's after an employee seemingly identified him. In his bag, police found 3D printed weapons, fake IDs, and a 3-page handwritten manifesto airing his grievances with the American healthcare system. Within the note, Mangione allegedly wrote that healthcare executives were parasites who, quote, simply had it coming. The entire affair has launched quite the conversation online about the corrupt reality of American healthcare. Now, when the news first broke, and even now, mainstream media, that being Fox, CNN, CBS, seem pretty terrified by the American people for not instantly condemning Mangione as a terrible person or a cold-blooded criminal. But to anyone who's been paying attention to the wealth disparity in the United States, this attitude by the American people is not really shocking at all. For years, middle and lower class citizens of the United States have suffered exploitation at the hands of huge corporations like Meta, Amazon, and now United Healthcare, who systematically work to exploit every loophole they can to maximize profit regardless of who suffers. According to the Pew Research Center, in the last 30 years alone, the distribution of wealth held by upper-class families has increased from 60% to a whopping 79%. The wealth of middle-class families has been cut in half from 32% to 17%, and lower-class families only hold 4% as opposed to 7% in 1983. In layman's terms, the rich are getting vastly richer, the middle class are poor, and poor people are literally 1 foot in the grave. United Healthcare is seen as particularly villainous in the way that they prey upon their clients because their business is literally a matter of life and death. This is a company with one of the highest claim denial rates amongst health insurance companies at a whopping 32%. The guys that own and man these companies have literally some of the most obsessive and sociopathic tendencies on earth, and I believe that the American people would probably all be better off if they spent the rest of their lives in jail. And I don't blame anyone who could relate to Mangione's grievances for these reasons. With that being said, This is a little bit insane. Like, the creator of this edit literally timed up the... Never mind. And this kind of obviously provocative media isn't in some dark corner of the internet either, like it usually is. It's pretty mainstream. Etsy merch, fan art, the analysis of Spotify playlists, and even a look-alike contest held in the middle of Washington Square Park. To me, it all just seems wildly unserious for the gravity of the situation. Even the joke that I told at the beginning of this video seems weirdly out of touch in hindsight. First, this kind of media seems like a romanticization of not only Mangione himself, but also the alleged act of murder that he's responsible for, which is obviously bad. But I also feel like this content often takes away from the issues of class inequality or systemic corruption that this event was supposed to bring light to in the first place. And if the avid supporters of Mangione are really in search of genuine reform of American healthcare and other American systems, it seems like this focus on lifestyle content may be more harmful to that cause than helpful. I think there is something about the nature of digital culture that is actively changing how new generations perceive moral responsibility. And in my opinion, if we refuse to unpack it, we may do more harm than good when we seek social and political change. Following the success of the structure of content on TikTok, head of Instagram Adam Mosseri announced the Instagram Reels feature in 2020. There was, and still is, nothing singularly special about the structure of Reels. Like most other social media platforms, this was just Meta's attempt to capitalize on the rising success of short-form content. But today, you will find one thing that sets Instagram Reels apart from all other short-form content platforms, and that is that the comments are just really, really mean. I follow this account on Instagram called My Arfid Life that features a little girl named Hannah and is run by her mother, Michelle. Basically, the premise of the channel is that Hannah has ARFID, this disorder that causes her to be extremely avoidant of most foods. So what she does is record a video every so often of her trying a new food and rating it so she can increase her exposure to meals that make her feel safer.
Many of you guys recommended that I try this, even though it's one of my biggest fear foods. You guys motivated me so much that I decided that I want to try it. Today I'm going to be trying the Reese's Peanut Butter Pumpkins.
Like, cool. You would think that there's nothing divisive or controversial about this at all. But if you take 1 second to scroll past her pinned comments...
Boo this man!
There has to be a point where it becomes unnatural to be this upset over something so simple. Like, this is just an 8-year-old who's struggling to adjust to new foods. Even if you have some kind of old school reservation about, how parents should feed their kids, I can't imagine a world where it enrages you this much that this little girl doesn't like broccoli. And this kind of behavior on Reels is essentially everywhere. If you're a child, everyone hates you. If you're overweight, everyone hates you. If you're a mother, neurodivergent, queer, poor, too happy, too ethnic, too creative, you're made subject to someone's wrath. Someone even caught me recently on the first reel that I ever posted. I am a girl, by the way. I didn't know it was that hard to tell, so thank you, I think. Anyway, it seems like the sense of detachment that the digital world provides seems to embolden those who strive to only make the most provocative and outrageous comments online. Jay Van Bavel, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at New York University, suggests that this phenomenon is integral to the structure of the attention economy that social media creates. The most impactful media there is that which evokes an emotional reaction from the viewer. If a creator or commenter can make you feel something, whether that is immense joy, extreme anger, or disgust, they now have your attention and your engagement, which is probably much more valuable than your opinion to them. Quote, social media often acts like an accelerant for existing moral dynamics, amplifying negative facets of morality such as outrage, harassment, status seeking, and intergroup conflict, as well as some positive aspects of morality such as social support, pro-sociality, and collective action, unquote. This is validating for one of two reasons, usually. For the commenter, your outrage or argument satisfies a need to be seen and heard. And for the content creator, your engagement offers the same validation, but also the opportunity for monetary gain. In this way, we've made our emotions and our morality transactional in digital spaces. Their importance as distinguishing aspects of our humanity are diminished the second that they reach the internet. Online, the value of content is not measured by truth, virtue, or intent, but rather its sole ability to provoke. When we're online, we feel so anonymous and so untouchable that we fail to recognize the offline implications of our actions. By normalizing the behavior like that of the comments of Reels, whether that behavior be overly disrespectful, overly sexual, or anything else of that nature, we're actively reshaping how we approach empathy and accountability in the digital age. Herein lies the issue with anything genuine or serious that is primarily promoted online. Those who shout the loudest or appear the funniest are disproportionately rewarded, regardless of whether their saying leads to any meaningful change. One great example of this is like the predator catching content that you've probably seen on YouTube. In 2021, former YouTuber and professional cupcake chaser EDP445 was caught trying to engage in some nefarious activities in a sting operation orchestrated by Alex Rosen and his organization known as the Predator Poachers, who were also YouTubers. At the end of it all, Rosen and his group had virtually everything they needed to ensure EDP would be arrested. He also literally admitted to all his crimes on camera. However, because Rosen didn't bother to go through proper channels to conduct his investigation, likely because he wanted to monetize the incident on YouTube, and also because law enforcement agencies don't really respect YouTuber vigilante operations, EDP never faced any charges related to the incident. So now, you have a scenario where you have this person who has publicly committed very illegal acts, and it is widely known that he's a terrible person, and he will suffer no legal consequences because the outrage or opportunity of his situation was valued over our moral responsibility as members of a just society. Although Alex Rosen is a horrible person, he and other predator-catching YouTubers do kind of represent a positive change that many in their audience aspire to see in the world. Similarly, Luigi Mangione, even despite the controversial nature of his actions, is seen by most of his supporters as someone who is trying to inspire positive social change. Both figures, in different ways, do kind of reflect a wider desire for more justice and accountability in our society. But sadly, that change will probably not be achieved by either of their doing. My personal issue with Mangione's method of change or brutal honesty, besides the fact that you can't just kill people, or you shouldn't just kill people, but United Healthcare didn't really care about that, is that like Rosen, his actions aren't really backed by a long-term strategy or vision for reform. Now, whether that was his intention or not, I can't really speak to, I don't know him, but regardless, one thing remains true. Brian Thompson being dead, in the scope of the wider battle with American healthcare, essentially changes nothing. Now, it is devastating for his family, and for that they have my condolences, but in terms of the condition of the American people, the situation won't translate into anything tangible by itself. Let's be clear here. This is not a call for violence, and I don't agree with violence as a means of intimidation or awareness or anything that CBS is calling it, and I do think that Mangione's actions were wrong. But I do think it's up to us to ensure that these conversations of mass healthcare reform make it out of the subreddits, make it off of TikTok, make it off of YouTube, etc., etc. When we downplay, memify, and sensationalize the details of this case, in a way, we are contributing to the same kind of harmful, spectacle-creating behavior that the media is trying to perpetuate, or that its constant entourage of cops, agents, and alleged criminal mayors are trying to sustain. We shift the focus away from the systemic failings here and instead make this a story about individuals and symbols. But symbols don't create change. People do. And real systemic change requires collective action, attention, and accountability on the internet and in the real world. If you've made it this far in the video, again, thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for watching to the end. Also leave a comment regarding anything else you'd like me to tackle or anything you'd like to see on my channel, period. But yeah, happy holidays and I'll see you again very soon. Oh no! Oh no, I dropped my bracelet. Oh no!